Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the full SITREP or summary of the Ukraine war for the day of 214 and 25 September. For those that have no time, please just go and watch the tiny SITREP, which I today call it wrongly. I call it mini because I'm still trying to get used to the name. So for those that don't want to spend 20 minutes here, please go and watch the tiny SITREP. And so anyway, let's start off with weird statements. Long time. It's been a few days since we have weird statements. So the weird statement of the day from Ukraine: NASAMS systems is not in Ukraine at all. It is a shock to me. When I first saw this, it's like, because on Twitterverse, the pro-Ukrainian crowd has been celebrating, the arrival of NASAM, or the deployment of NASAMs, and they are speculating on where they can be deployed and all this whatnot. And today came out this information that the press secretary said that the information of NASAMS in Ukraine is not true. He said that Zelensky said that Ukraine has only received the consent to transfer NASAMS and not the system themselves. So this surface to air missile system is not deployed or provided to Ukraine yet. And so it's another situation where the pro-Russian crowd always point out where the Ukrainian side always lies, or put up fake statements or misinformation, and this kind of thing that just doesn't help to create more credibility on this information war. And for it is also this kind of things that makes me feel a bit like my heart sank when every time I try to want to trust them more, trust the Ukrainian side more, the statements, all these things, then we have this kind of shit happen. So unfortunately, this is not good news to the Ukrainians, which means this also explains why we are seeing Russian aircraft flying deep into Ukrainian territory over the past 2 weeks. And there's also additional information. This coming out from pro-Russian source Ryba, quoting the presidential advisor Alexei Arestovich, where they say that the Ukrainians, against the backdrop of the Russian partial mobilization, they can actually react to it by doing their own mobilization. So he revealed that there is still 5.5 million people within the mobilization reserve. So however, this 5.5 million people is unlikely to be soldiers. These probably are just men, just guys, where they can actually mobilize and train to military standard to send to the front line. So 5.5 million is still a massive number of people, which means the Ukrainian military, provided they have enough heavy equipments and guns, rifles, and all sort of uniforms, helmets, as long as they have the gears for 5.5 million people, they are likely to be able to continue this war for a very long time, since you got 5.5 million reserve. However, of course, not sure if the economy can sustain it, and whether the Western support will continue to support a war dragging on for so long. However, this is not a joke number. This is still a massive number. But comparing to the Russian side, they claim, not sure it's true or not, they say that they have 25 million military reserve. So this 25 million are people who have served in the regular military, and it's not just conscripts. Conscripts are not included in that 25 million. So the Ukraine, regardless of all the support, is still the underdog in this war. And over at the referendum side, I just want to clarify. People are commenting, saying that I say the referendum is legitimate. I say that the percentage that of the people voting sounds legitimate. I didn't say the referendum is legitimate. The referendum's legitimacy is in the eye of the beholder. If you ask people in Donbass, or people who are pro-Russia, they will say that it's legitimate. If you ask people who are against Russia, or even ask leaders or countries where they have their own separatist problems like Serbia or China, they will say that the referendum is not legitimate. So this is just nonsensical to say that a referendum or any election for that matter is legitimate or not. I'm just saying that the percentage, the way how it grows, sounds legitimate. So on day 2, these are the percentage. So day 3, Luhansk and Donetsk both goes into the 76 and 77 percentage respectively. Luhansk went from 45.86 and now they grow to 76, and for Donetsk they went from 55.5 to 77. So the both growth is around 22 to 25, or for the Luhansk for that matter is 30%, so this is a bit high. So usually, I'm not so sure if this is supposed to be natural, but anyway, maybe on the 3rd day Luhansk people started to decided to come out and vote a bit more. For Zaporizhzhia, the previous number was at 35.54. They raised up to 51.55, so a 20%, is it 20%? No, 15% jump. And then Kherson is at 48.91. Kherson yesterday was at 79, so they grew, how much is this, 31 to 48, almost 20%. So Kherson continues to lag behind. I'm not even sure if they can reach 80% by the end of the referendum. So anyway, this is the voting. We shall see what is the final results is like. Personally, I would say you have to have 50% of the votes, out of the total voting population, not just the people who voted, but voting population, to even remotely think that it is fair, But anyway, referendum, it doesn't really matter what happened to the referendum. Anyway, people who don't like Russia will say it's rigged, and I personally also think that there is no chance that they will allow the voting results to be against Russia. And but of course, not sure. Maybe they are really fair, and then maybe Kherson decided not to join Russia. That could be true. That could be possible. That will be a shocker. And anyway, if that happens, because the turnout for Kherson is really low, to be honest. And let's see how this goes. So prepare your popcorns. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported they have shot down a Sukhoi 25 and a Mi-8 helicopter. So over the past 24 hours. And moving on to the Southern Front. At the Southern Front, we have reports. So there is some information coming from the 24th, because when I did the summary, the SITREP for yesterday, the Russian report have not came out yet. So that's why we have some information coming out from the day before, where the Russian forces destroyed a Ukrainian gunboat near Oskil. So Oskil is here. They have a naval port here, and I think this petrol boat or this gunboat actually is it looks a bit like this one, or maybe the smaller one. Maybe this one. I think it's this one. So anyway, this is a gunboat, the Ocha M. The Gyoza M class gunboat. And then there is also a MiG-29 shot down over Novoukrainka, and there is a MiG-29 shot down over Beshtenka. Again, I have to emphasize that this shooting down is so far into Ukrainian territory. It does suggest that there is a massive lack of surface-to-air missile system within the Southern Front in the Ukrainian inventory, and they are not doing well enough against Russian Air Force. The Russian Air Force has been running riot around the Southern Front for the past few weeks already, and that on the ground there is actually no reports of fighting. There's only reports of bombardments, but there is actually no active fighting. So that's all from the Southern Front, where is the Mykolaiv Front, Davydiv Front, and the Kryvyi Front, respectively. So moving on to the Zaporizhzhia Line, there's nothing much to report on the Zaporizhzhia Line. There is shelling reported at Onohoda, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant region, but I don't really bother about that anymore because it has turned out to be rather meaningless already. Moving on to the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, the Ukrainians actually launched an offensive over at the area of Palivka. They attacked, and then, however, due to airstrike, artillery, and missile strikes or rocket strikes, they had to retreat to Voleda. And weirdly, in terms of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they reported enemy attacks in the area of Palivka. So I suspect that it either might be they reported their own attack as the enemy attack, or the Russians actually launched a counteroffensive. Either way, there is fighting reported at Palivka. And at Marinka, the Ukrainians try again. Units of the 79th Brigade try to advance on the position in Marinka. And as usual, they got intercepted by artillery. And interestingly, there is according to the Ukraine Defense Ministry, they actually name drop Pojeda. So here is Pojeda, but it's actually Pojeda. And this is pretty new because we haven't really reported any fighting in these locations before, which means that the Russians are now trying to flank downwards. And this also suggests that there is actually a bit more troops in this region for the Russians to actually launch an offensive. So let's see how this goes. Anyway, this entire Western Donetsk position or area is heavily entrenched by now. So it's going to be really, really difficult for the Russians to actually make progress. And fighting continues to be reported at Pervomaisky, according to the Ukraine Defense Ministry. And there is fighting reported at Kayamka. So that's all from the Donetsk Front. And as per usual, I want to highlight that the lack of information coming out from the pro-Russian side, because all this information is like, this attack by Ukrainians is from Ryber. But most of these fighting reports, right, it's mostly doesn't seem to be coming from the pro-Russian sources, which then suggests that actually most of the the troops filled up or positioned on the Russian side here is actually from the Russian armed forces. That means the Russian regular forces is actually holding these positions, because usually if it's held up by the Wagner group, or should it be the Chechen forces, or should it be the militias from Donbass, usually we have a lot more information about the fighting. When it's the Russian Federation military, we actually don't really get much information because of their professional code, where they have to maintain operational secrecy. So and Russian soldiers, if I'm not wrong, usually can't even have their phones with them. It's really disciplined, so it's a very professional force. It's different. So at Selidove, there is a Sukhoi 24 getting shot down. Again, you can see that it's pretty far away from the front line, which also and this is shot down by a Russian aircraft. As you can see, in terms of the distance where it fell is around 30 kilometers. And at this range, if there is any surface-to-air missile in the Ukrainian side defending their airspace, the Russian aircraft should be in danger. So this shoot down is really shows that the Ukrainians are lacking surface-to-air missiles. Moving on to the Eastern Front, and so I reviving the word Eastern Front to describe Bakhmut and Siversk, because these two fronts seems to be pretty similar, but anyway it's just a overall name, just like Southern Front. So at the Bakhmut Front, you can see the number of icons, the red attacking fighting icons. The Russians actually launched a massive offensive across the entire of Bakhmut Front. So fighting continued to be reported at Mayos. This is reported by Ryber, the pro-Russian source of Donetsk People's Republic militia, fighting for this village of Mayos, which actually contradicts earlier reports that Mayos has been captured by the Russian forces, which means that either someone is lying or the Ukrainian has retaken the village. Fighting continued to be reported at Kudyumivka, at Oredivka, and at Zaporizhzhia as usual. And there is fighting reported at Vasile Dolina. After some time, we haven't seen fighting reported at Vasile Dolina. Fighting is reported at Bakhmut again, reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. But Ukrainian Defense Ministry also name dropped another new place, Pithorone. The Pithorone is on the northern or even northeast of Bakhmut city, and this has never been reported have any fighting so far in this war. So this is the first time we are seeing fighting at this suburb of Bakhmut. So we can actually read this as the Russians are now having more troops in the Donetsk Front or the Eastern Front to be able to launch this offensive northward. Similar to the situation at the Donetsk Front, where I mentioned that this is a bit unusual for the Russians to actually launch an offensive against Pozheda. So now we are seeing the similar situation where the Russians have forces attacking Pithorone, and I suspect this might be a sign that there is reinforcement arriving at the front line on the Russian side. Who are they? I have no idea. And at the Soledar, there is fighting also reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So that's all from the Bakhmut front. Over at the Siversk Front, continue to be reported fighting at Vimka, and there's fighting reported at Sprne. There is a positional battle being fought at Verkhem and also at Bilohorivka. So positional fighting, in case you are not familiar, basically they are just fighting in place. They are not actually doing assault. They are not trying to take over enemy position. They are basically firing from their position, and maybe trying to move to better firing positions to like playing chess. But they are not really actually fighting forward. And over at the Lyman Front, where the Ukrainians focus their main offensive, the pressure on Lyman continues as the Ukrainians continue to attack from two different directions. They attack from the southeast, from Ozheny. They are fighting northwestwards towards Lyman, and there is fighting reported from Shushrove. So probably is from this force that was previously attacked by Russian artillery. So after reform, they regroup after the shelling. They launched their planned offensive against Lyman. So the fighting over at the north and northeast is no longer reported. If we still don't hear anything from them in the next 24 hours, maybe I will redraw this line so that we don't see this very sharp looking maybe not so, never mind, forget it. Over at the Zaporizhzhia, there is fighting, continued fighting. The Ryba reported that the intensity on the southern side of Zaporizhzhia has decreased, but on the balancing side, there is actually a bridgehead being established on the northern part of Zaporizhzhia. And why it's called bridgehead? Because there is actually a river here, the Nitrius River. So the Ukrainians have crossed the river and established a bridgehead. So we are likely to see a pincer movement from the north and the south against Zaporizhzhia. The situation at Novoselivka is uncertain. There's no reported fighting. However, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry claimed control of Novoselivka because they reported shelling in this position. Maybe it's a good idea for me to just draw it in this way. Yeah. So the Novoselivka is currently in dispute. And on the northern part of the Lyman Front, yesterday we reported that the Russians actually launched a counteroffensive after the Ukrainians initially took Kapivka and Nove. This counteroffensive has been defeated by the Ukrainian forces, and the Ukrainians have recaptured Nove. This is the wrong icon. Recaptured Nove and Kapivka. And quickly after capturing of Kapivka, the Ukrainians actually launched an offensive southward towards Shentriholove, which is actually as per I have predicted. If you haven't watched the analysis for the Lyman Front, do go and check it out, the strategic analysis of Lyman Front. You can probably have a better sensing of what is actually happening and what is at stake. So the Ukrainians launched 2 different offensives against Shentriholove. The first one got stopped by Russian artillery, and then they gave it another try. So both attack is by armored groups. So these are armored vehicles and probably tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. And the second time round, they are more successful. They are able to reach the outskirts of Shentriholove. So however, according to the report from AZ military, not sure where he got this information, or the second group also got defeated. But this also put into question SITREP, because SITREP is a very it seems a bit like it can be under Ukrainian control, and we have no idea what's happening at Korovia ever since the claim the day before yesterday by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The lack of report might suggest that the front line has been pushed further south, and Korovia might actually be under Ukrainian control. So we shall see if we have any report of a capture of SITREP or even Shentriholove, and if that happened, then we can confirm this claim is actually correct. So the Russians is now getting trapped in this triangle of Shentriholove, Novoselivka, and Drobisheve, and with this situation, I do believe that the Ukrainians might actually flank it further rear through Zelina Dolena down to Starkiv, because there's no point going head on with an entrenched enemy. But anyway, we shall see how the Ukrainians perform. Now, there is no more news regarding the northern part. Perhaps they don't want to go northward. They want to bring all the forces south to focus on the Lyman Front. So after going all this so far north, they seems to prefer to go southward. So now at the Oskil Front, we have no information whatsoever about the Oskil Front. I suspect it might be because it's the Sunday. Yesterday was Sunday, and some of the the pro-Russian analysts and sources are not working, or they are not doing anything. They are maybe went to relax because it has been a very tiring week for the pro-Russian side, because all this emotional damage is it takes time to heal. So anyway, this is the summary for the day of 214 for the 25th of September. And please press the like button if you haven't pressed. Do share this to your contacts if you find this useful, or if you know anyone that might be interested, and do subscribe if you have not subscribed, and I will see you in the next update.